Welcome, everyone, to Ascension Flight number 2020.
All right.
We are preparing for takeoff into the new year. And here are some important instructions. Please make sure your positive attitude and blessings are secured and locked in an upright position. All self-destructive devices should be turned off at this time. All negativity, hurt, and discouragement should be put away. Should we lose our attitude under pressure during the flight, reach up and pull down a prayer. Prayer will be automatically activated by your faith. Once your faith is activated, you can then assist other passengers.
Oh, love that.
There will be no baggage allowed on this flight. Our destination is higher dimensional consciousness, where we will experience grace, oneness, love, and unity. The captain has cleared us for takeoff. We welcome you on this flight as we fly together into 2020.
Fantastic.
Hello, I'm Debra Giusti, and I'm so excited to be on this journey with you. And wow, what a journey. And especially in this year, 2020, as you've noticed, if you've been following a lot of what's going on, there's a lot of very prominent astrological major configurations, a lot of eclipses, a lot of portals, a lot of shift happening. And also, even beyond our Conscious Life Expo consciousness in the community out there, people are claiming that 2020 is the year of clear vision. And this is in the mass consciousness. And they're really claiming this with some hope and with some conviction that we can do this and help shift things to a positive way. I'm hearing this all over. And in our reality, we can see how this supports the ascension reality, this positive up-leveling. And what I'm understanding is that 2020 brings in a global, they're the larger aspects that touch all of humanity and are very pivotal for humanity's consciousness. And I know a lot of us that come to Conscious Life Expo have been on the spiritual path for a long time. So we kind of know what's been happening, what's been coming in terms of the shift and the transformation. But now in the 2020, it's really going to touch everyone on global humanity, is what it says. And this is kind of obvious because there is so much happening these days. And everyone's so interconnected all over the world. Even the tribes in Africa have their cell phone in their pocket these days. So it's not hard to see that there's a lot happening now, a major shift happening. And I know that's why a lot of you are here, because you can feel it on the inside and you've been knowing it for a while. And this is what events like Conscious Life Expo help to bring to the surface. But sometimes, if you look at the news and you look at what's going on, it can look like chaos and destruction, and I don't know what's going on. Every time we look in the news, there's something more crazy going on. But this is a part of the process. If you study ancient teachings and prophecy and all of that, they will say that there's a lot of chaos going through the birth canal before you come to the golden age. And that feels like what's happening now. Or if you can see that everything that's been hidden behind the scenes, that's been going on for a long time, is up in the surface now. All the dysfunction of our culture is like right in our face. And this is like a healing crisis for the culture, where the toxins that have been buried and hidden are now forced to come up. So we can deal with them, we can flush them out, we can make choices, we know they're there. So that's part of this process. So I'm totally in for Ascension Flight 2020. And I know it's happening. When I tune into my soul, instead of seeing all this chaos, I'm seeing this as transformation that we're stepping into. And I'm totally 100% committed. To me, it's one of the most exciting things, journeys happening these times. And that's why I'm moderating this panel with this amazing array of panelists who all come from a different perspective. So we're going to be able to hear about the ascension process from all these different perspectives, which is going to be really wonderful. And I would like to start by giving what I consider my definition of ascension, because a lot of people wonder, what are we talking about? What does this mean? And this just can give us a baseline, and then we'll find out what this experience panel has to say as well. So I call ascension an accelerated spiritual process that's currently taking place in all planetary life forms. It's not just us, it's the whole planet, the whole life form that's raising up. It's a step-by-step process initiated through spiritual awakening and to up-level you into higher dimensional existence and quantum consciousness through a gradual healing and clearing of dense trauma and ancestral patterning. Through the activation of the light body, we evolve into fifth dimensional frequencies, and we connect with our higher self and deep soul embodiment. So that's a mouthful. And we're going to unpack that in this panel now and really go into all the specific aspects of it, so we can really understand, what does that mean to me in my life right now? Also on your chairs, there's a colored postcard that says Ascension Tips. Myself and Meg Benedicte created a simple blueprint that describes the process of ascension, and it will show you where you can download that for free. And David of the Light Party has given you a CD and DVD of ascension, beautiful ascension processes, but with visuals that you can use for your meditation. But now I'd like to get to our panel. And what I'd like to ask first is for you to describe the ascension process. I know a lot of you have actually had personal experiences on a very high level, or you've been incredible researchers of the ascension process. And this is like the elephant and the six blind men. We're all looking at this amazing transfiguration process from all our different lenses. So I'd like to understand what you experience the ascension process to be, if you have any information on what's going on in this year in 2020, and how we're not talking about ascension somewhere else, but this is a very embodied experience. And so I'd like to begin with Meg Benedicte. Meg Benedicte has been an ascension teacher for 25 years. She's a guide, she's an activator, a quantum healer. She's the creator of Quantum Access program, and she had a profound Kundalini awakening in 1994 that activated her spiritual ascension, and her mission is to be here and help the whole planet and humanity ascend. So Meg, I'd love to know what you have to say.
Thank you, Debra. So as Debra mentioned, it was actually in the January 1994 earthquake where I had a spontaneous Kundalini activation.
Just go closer.
Really? Oh, okay, right into the mic. You can hear me now? Okay. So in January 94, the Northridge earthquake, I had a spontaneous Kundalini activation that allowed my soul to come into the body, and as I'm actually an angelic walk-in from the future, and came in at this time for what's happening on the planet right now. And as I got into the incarnation, into the field, and began to observe, this then triggered my own ascension process. And it's really kind of going into what we call the transfiguration aspect of the ascension process. This is where we're decomposing a lot of old code and consciousness and programming, patterning that has kept us in the lower dimensional realm, the third dimensional realm of physical density and polarity. And so as I began this process, I started to, in a way, allow what was getting mirrored to me from around me in my daily life to show me where I was out of balance, to show me where I had patterns running, to show me where I may be still carrying core wounds or ego programming. So it's kind of like the mirror effect, letting your outer reality mirror to you what needs to still be transfigured and healed and transcended within us. Because in a way, what this process is we're creating a crystalline container for the soul to descend down and in and merge with the human self. So we're going from carbon-based DNA to crystalline DNA. And this is it's a pretty intense process to go through, and you will feel purging and detoxing as you're transforming from carbon to crystalline. And the biggest jump I noticed, and when I first started 25 years ago, everything was very locked in and dense and so slow to make any kind of progress. And since 2012, on the solstice, that's when I had a very powerful experience up at Mount Shasta and saw that the planetary 3D matrix had come undone. It basically, whatever it was controlling all of us in our minds, our behaviors, our fears, victim programming, it unlocked. And since 2012, everything has been unwinding, if you can think of it, like the 3D matrix field is unwinding, decomposing. It's no longer has that hold on all of us, and it's freeing us to have independent thinking, to be able to really tune into our own soul truth, and to start to live from that essence, that soul truth within. So it's every year since 2012, it's been accelerating so that we get into this year, which is such an amazing year, because now we're fully in numerology, the twos, right? We're in 2020s now, the twos going on forward. And in numerology, 2 represents the feminine. So this is where we're seeing more and more of the divine feminine qualities, characteristics, and empowerment growing in all of us. So what is that? That's more of your intuition and psychic ability, more of your heart centers, compassion, more of your creativity. So this is where we can actually become alchemists. So 2020 is a big year for that burst of more of our feminine powers coming in. Doesn't matter what gender we are, we're both embracing our feminine powers. And it's also a powerful year because it's opening up where we're finally merging and really getting into the age of Aquarius. We just had a powerful palindrome on 2/2/2020, and that we're still in it actually right now. It was a huge gateway that activated. It was an Aquarius gateway, and it's activated this entire year of physically transfiguring and embodying the soul presence in our own lives and in the planetary field as well. So it's an exciting year, it's picking up speed, and it's really our time. This is why we're here. So it's really exciting to be here and in this process with all of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Meg. Good timing. And Susan Shumsky, she's been a teacher for many, many years. She's the award-winning best-selling author of 17 books. And she's written some books on ascension. So she's really researched and explored this with many of the spiritual teachers in the past that have experienced this ascension process. So Susan, I'd love to understand what you experience ascension to be.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here today. Thank you, Debra. Ascension. So what does that mean? Well, my definition of ascension is to transform the physical body into a light body. We live in many dimensions as physical beings. We also have subtle body, and we have a light body. And when we can transform this physical body into light, that's the process of ascension. And for the planet, when we transform this planet into a light planet, then we have achieved planetary ascension. You may have noticed, some of you who are old enough to remember, hardly anybody in this audience I see, what it was like in the mid-20th century. Very different than today. Back then we had World War I, 41 million people died. World War II, 71 million people died. It was a bloodbath. The 20th century was a bloodbath. Thank goodness some great spiritual masters from the East came to America, came to the West, shall we say, to teach us the secrets of meditation and all the other esoteric techniques that didn't exist in the West. There was no yoga, there was no mantra, there was no meditation. These things didn't exist here. Somehow, by some fortunate circumstance, must be divinely guided, I guess, in the 60s, a big spiritual revolution began. And since then, this planet has transformed. And we see yoga studios on every corner. We see martial arts. We see organic foods. People are conscious about health. People want to transform. 10 to 14% of the population of the United States claims that they meditate. Isn't that amazing? Back in the 60s, or the 50s, let's say, there was no esoteric bookstores in the United States except for two, one on the East Coast and one on the West Coast. And the other bookstores didn't have one piece of esoteric information whatsoever. People were just in complete ignorance. And now we have the internet, and we have the speeding up of this esoteric and spiritual information and spiritual experiences. I tell you, I teach meditation, and when I first began teaching meditation in 1970, it took months for people to have a spiritual experience. Now, when I teach somebody, it takes a few minutes. It's amazing. The vibration of this planet has lifted so much. It's not even the same planet. So ascension is essentially to transform this physical form into light. And happily, luckily, I have discovered some methods on how to do that. Actually, I didn't discover them. Babaji gave them to me, the great ascended master from the Himalayas who's lived for at least 5,000 years, according to legend. He's my inner teacher, and he's given me these pearls, and so more to come.
Thank
Pass
you.
on to Maureen.
Great. Thank you, Susan. And Maureen St. Germain, she's been a ascension teacher and a Akashic record guide for many years. She's written many books, CDs, definitely on the path, very skilled and aware of the fifth dimensional realities. So please, Maureen, share us your perspective.
Thank you. I liken the ascension to the kind of life we live as humans, in that we all have experience with teenagers, whether you're a parent or know someone who's a parent. And my experience of the ascension is becoming the most evolved version of you. So we're all becoming ascended masters. And it's hard to comprehend that you could be an ascended master, but you are. And my experience with the ascension work came through my work with the Merkaba. And I taught the original 17 breath Merkaba for 15 years, and I've reached 24 countries and over 15,000 people teaching that work. And what I have found is that that is one of the keys to ascension. And you will see many people talking about the Merkaba because it is a dynamic field that raises your vibration to the level of the light body, so that you are putting on the uniform of your 5D self, your fifth dimensional self. So getting back to the metaphor that I wanted to share with you, I will say that as a parent formerly parent of teenagers, I can tell you that some days they would do something very mature, and the ascension is like that. We all act very mature and very loving and very sweet, and then they follow it with something stupid. That's us. So we also are on what I will call a sine wave that moves up and down, and we make an upward progress. So the overall angle of improvement is always up, and we are falling down and stepping back up, falling down and stepping back up. And one of the ways that I can show you that you have been fifth dimensional is the disappearance of something that you are using. So let's say you set your sunglasses down. We're in California, that's a common thing everybody has. Maybe you put them away in a drawer. And then you decide, oh, I better go back out and take care of this other thing. So now you're a little bit concerned about finishing that little errand. So you go back for the sunglasses and they're not there. And you rummage around, maybe you pull everything out of this drawer and they're still not there. So you give up. That, I don't know what the problem is, but I got to get out of here. You grab a spare pair. You put them on, you do your errand, you come back feeling all yummy. You put your sunglasses away, forgetting that you're using a spare, and there is the original pair. And if that's happened to you, and it very likely has, because I usually do a poll, how many of you have had this happen? What I find is it's, 70, 80, 90% of the people are sharing the same experience. So what is happening is when you're anxious, you're in a polarity conscious, that's 3D. When you're in a yummy place, when you've finished your errand and you're feeling mellow, you're back in 5D. When you're in 3D, you can't see 5D. When you're in 5D, you can participate in 3D. So like the Russian nesting dolls, you can see what's beneath you, but you can't necessarily see what's above you. So if you've had that experience, you can now validate yourself and say, I've been 5D. Maybe you don't stay there, but you are vacillating into 5D, and this progression will continue. So I'd like to leave you with those metaphors, and that's why they call me the practical mystic.
Thank you, Maureen. And Kaia Ra, she is a world-renowned oracle for the Ascended Master High Council, and called the Sophia Dragon Tribe. And she's written an incredible book, The Sophia Code, which creates a relationship with some of the most prominent divine feminine ascended masters to support your ascension reality. So Kaia Ra, what is your perspective of your own ascension and what's going on here?
Oh my gosh. Well, excuse me. The first thing I want to say is how honored I am to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation, Debra, and all the work that you do in California and for our whole country, for our ascension journey. And
Thank you.
it's such an honor to be here with each of you. Thank you so much. And it's such an honor to be here with you, because for me, ascension is all of us doing this together. It's everything that has been shared is absolutely amazing information about the technology of ascension. And I'm really into the technology of ascension, which you can read about in my book, The Sophia Code. Including the technology of your divine genome, which you can activate through the power of your higher self, mentoring with the Ascended Masters. However, for me personally, my journey of ascension, I stumbled into it in the sense that I was born into a military program here in the United States. And I suffered 18 years of atrocities. I was raped and tortured for 18 years. And was in multiple programs that were designed to exploit and use rape, child trafficking for political power. And so part of my ministry and mission is to bring to light this level of child rape trafficking that's happening in our country as well as all over the world. And in that journey, what kept me alive was my ability to connect with and see and hear the Ascended Masters and the angels, the legions of angels that were keeping me alive through those atrocities. That kept bringing me back from the heavenly realms, back to my body, and inviting me to stay, to fulfill my mission. So you can read about in the preface, I'm not going to go into it, but I had this larger-than-life experience, also at Mount Shasta, funny enough, and in that I was asked to birth the Sophia Code. And I was very intimidated by the High Council that presented themselves to me. I knew it was going to require a great deal of inner work and physical work to prepare myself for this mission. So long story short, my journey with Ascension has been a completely embodied experience of test driving these teachings to see how they could heal and empower me beyond 18 years of atrocities. Did it work? Did mentoring with the Ascended Masters, did activating the divine genome, which they asked me to write about, did it actually work? And the truth is, I'm here. It worked.
Yeah.
Thank you. So for me, The reason why I get up every day, my greatest joy is to connect with every soul that I possibly can, such as yourself, around the world, and to share the good news that we're all holy, sovereign, and divine on a planet that is currently engaged in a war of annihilation. There's rape consciousness, there are apocalyptic events happening out there, and the only solution to that, it's not about fighting against the old paradigm. We have to resource our own sovereign divinity and embody that to download the solutions directly from the source that we need. And that's what we learn when we mentor with the Ascended Masters, how to download new paradigm solutions, completely new world. And so for us, Ascension for me is the journey from enslavement back to the truth of our sovereign divinity. But it has to happen within every cell of your body, and it has to happen as a daily practice. Because the longer you're in your ascension journey, you don't want to, there's nowhere to go. You understand that God put you here for a very powerful reason, whatever God is for you, and that the more you can radiate the very sovereign divine light that you are, life becomes so fascinating. You're so engaged with every reason why God created us in service to one another. There's just nowhere else to be. And, interestingly enough, the more you practice embodying your light, your sovereign divinity, the more all of these beautiful technologies that our panel of speakers are sharing about do become activated. You start to tap into the superpowers of the human body. And so there's a lot of amazing things that our bodies can do in the process of ascension, including dumping centuries of karma and stepping into a whole new golden age. But the most interesting thing for me about the journey of ascension is what it means to authentically love one another and what kind of miracles are going to happen from that space in 2020. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kaia Ra. And William Henry has been on this path of sharing ascension information for a long time. He is a historian. He is a investigative mythologist. He is an art historian, and he's recently produced a program on Gaia TV called Ascension Keepers, which is amazing. It brings all his work to light in a very professional, thorough, amazing way. Back in history, back with art, with the Essenes, with all the different religions that really promoted ascension, and chronicles what it is about. If you haven't seen it yet, you should definitely check it out. So, William, what can you tell us from your perspective?
Yeah, and thank you for that plug. Yeah, Ascension Keepers is actually my third Ascension theme program or series on Gaia. The first one, Arcanum, looked at sacred art along with my wife Claire. The second one is The Awakened Soul. So I've been trying to document the history and the practice of ascension going back to the very beginning. And in my own journey, that started, I was reading, there were some various authors that were talking about extraterrestrial intervention in human affairs, and they were describing them as technological beings and here to enslave us and do all kinds of things like that. And it wasn't resonating with me. And I was looking for another answer. And then I read the story of Inanna, which is the oldest human story, is Inanna's descent into the underworld and her ascension. It's the oldest human story. And it had been argued that Inanna was some kind of space astronaut or something, and she was wearing this incredible outfit, this helmet and a robe and a rainbow necklace that we were led to believe or asked to consider was actually some kind of spacesuit. And I knew intuitively then that it wasn't, that it was a light body story, it's an ascension story, but I didn't have the pieces yet to be able to back that up. And so I started on my way, and I wrote a book in 2002 called Cloak of the Illuminati, which was about the Illumined Ones, who possessed a cloak or garment of light that was transmittable. It was brought to Earth by a group of otherworldly beings called the Anunnaki. It represented a transmittable power. It made them luminous, shining, radiant beings. They could give it to a human being, and that was what distinguished a human from one of the demigods or one of these extraterrestrial entities, that they wielded this force that manifested this garment of light. And in my book, Cloak of the Illuminati, I was tracing the timeline of that cloak and following it from the Anunnaki all the way into the Egyptian tradition, where the Egyptians focused on creating a non-molecular light body using tones, lights, and plants. Followed that into the Israelite tradition with Elijah and his cloak. The transfiguration of Jesus is a demonstration of his ability to wield this frequency of love or vibration and reveal himself as one of these shining beings because he possessed this garment brought here by the Anunnaki. It was very clear. And that was kind of my introduction to the concept. And then a few years went by, and suddenly it was just dramatically accelerated when I was at actually a UFO conference in Northern California in 2006, and this lovely couple comes up to me and introduce themselves. They both have PhDs from the Harvard Divinity School. They work for the Dalai Lama. They teach something called the rainbow light body, the great perfection, which in the Tibetan tradition they tell us that our body is designed to be dissolved into 5-colored rainbow light, leaving behind hair, toe, and fingernails, which have no nerves to be transmuted, manifesting our ascension body. And they asked me if I knew anything about the rainbow light body, and I said, never heard of it before. And they said, well, that's very funny because your work in Egypt answers for us a question the Tibetans won't answer because they either don't know the answer or because it's secret. And this was referencing the work I was doing on stargates and wormholes in Egyptian art and how they clearly portray the manifestation of the light body. Well, it turns out that the answer that I provided to this couple was that they always wanted to know that once we attain our ascension body, that we're told that these lamas can travel to other star systems. And they always wanted to know, how do they get there? And they said, watching my presentations on Egyptian stargates and wormholes, it was very clear that the rainbow body, the ascension body, is our vehicle for traveling the stars. And with that, I had that piece I needed. It was, forget about generation starships and wormholes and stargates and other technology for traveling the cosmos or turning yourself into a robot. There is an alternative, and this is the one that we are emphasizing here. We can ascend as light beings and beam ourselves through the cosmos and then reformulate a physical flesh and blood body if we so desire. And the reason we would so desire is to be beings of light and love and to deliver compassion to more people. It's the Bodhisattva vow. And with that, I had that missing piece that I needed to go back into the Sumerian text, go back into the Egyptian text, and understand that this process of ascension has been on this planet for a very long time, many thousands of years, imported here from other star systems. And that's what we're plugging into with the ascension model. And that ultimately, what is different today than was in place then is that there seemed to be a rule. Humans could not ascend on their own, except some of the rebels, like the Essenes and the Gnostics and the Cathars. They bucked the system because the church and the religious and political authorities were saying, we don't support individual ascension. If God wanted you to ascend, he'd send you an invitation. Now go sit down and shut up, right? That's kind of the attitude. But what is different now is that, and through this progression of histories, is that individuals could take it upon themselves to complete their ascension whenever they wanted. And that is a real key thing. But now what's happening is that we have more of a collective ascension. The Earth herself is ascending, and with it, everyone on the planet, we're all simultaneously being lifted up. So my piece that I bring, and thank you, Debra, for having me on the panel, is to provide you a historical footprint to follow, a very solid one, coming from academic research at the PhD level. I admire and honor channelers. Many of the people that we research in history were channelers. But my service to you is to say, I have gone and read the PhD dissertations about ascension and stargates and wormholes, and I'm presenting that material to you in addition to all of the other pieces that you're pulling together in hopes that you'll be able to complete your symphony with that information. So thank you all for being here.
Wow.
God bless you.
Thank you, William. Well, that grounds it right down to Mama Gaia there. Thank you, William. And Lori Spagna, she's also a top ascension teacher that has worked very strongly as an ascension guide, as an intuitive, as a multidimensional channel. She's a best-selling author, animal communicator, energy healer, visionary. She specializes also in DNA activations. So Lori, I'd love your perspective on ascension.
Well, thank you, Debra, and thank you to everyone who's here. I'm honored and thrilled to be here. Looking forward. So I just want to share just briefly about my background. About 20 years ago, my brother died of an unexpected drug overdose, and very soon after his death, I started getting messages from him and hearing and connecting with him, never knowing before that I had the ability to connect with someone who was supposedly dead. And then that led me to an immediate shift in my reality, where I moved to Maui and I was living there for 2 years, during which time I was learning to meditate and become a healer and practice all these new modalities. And while doing so, I had what I call a first contact or induction experience with what I now know to be my home family. I refer to myself in terminology as a braided star seed, where the future version of myself connected with my human version of myself on the chip. And that was followed by, while living in Maui, a series of near-death experiences while learning how to still my consciousness, my awareness, my whole physical experience, and let my awareness be all that was. And so with that, what I'd like to say is, that's where the bulk of my information comes from, in addition to working with animals who have taught me so much, that they are our teachers. So much of what I bring through comes from the animals. I also work with so many benevolence in the non-physical realm, as well as universal laws, which reside, or basically are, in the 6th dimensional frequency. So I'm extracting information from universal laws, and I'm also working with higher dimensional realms, so to speak, of benevolent star family races. By the way, all of this is also within us. So let me share my perspective based on that. What ascension is. This is simple. We are not souls. You do not have a soul. You are not a spirit. You do not have a spirit. You are an awareness. You are awareness itself. You are the divine. You are awareness. And your awareness is becoming more and more conscious of yourself as awareness. Your storyline, you, all of us, have a storyline that we were a spirit, we were a soul, we're an eternal being, we went through these experiences, we had to clear and resolve this, we had to heal and resolve this. No, it's all storyline that we've told ourselves through our journey. Lifetimes of infinite experiences. You are pure awareness. That's it. And your awareness, the more and more you up-level your awareness and transform the density from your experience, you become more and more aware of yourself as eternal, unconditional love and acceptance of all that is. Now, part of this process of ascension requires you to merge and unify with everything and everyone. And that includes every aspect of your shadow consciousness and everything you judge and condemn to be wrong or bad or in separation from you. And I'm saying you, but I mean all of us. This is true for all of us because we are fractals of this source. We are the awareness of ourselves as fractals of this source. So we have to resolve our storyline and all the BS we tell ourselves about how high and mighty we are, or how superior we are, or how far we've come, or what our storyline is. It's all story. It doesn't diminish it. It doesn't devalue it. It's there for our growth, our expansion, our evolution, our transformation. So with that, I'd like to just give my version of a side-by-side comparison of old paradigm and new paradigm. And let me make this clear. It is not outside of us. We don't have to leave our bodies. We don't have to jump somewhere. Oh, shoot. Damn, so fast. Okay, 30 seconds. Let me just say, the old paradigm, 3rd dimensional paradigm based in separation and physicality. The new paradigm, 5D, based in unity and oneness. We go from fear-based to love-based. We go from electric left brain analytical stuff to heart brain magnetic, gut brain. We go from thinking everything's outside of us to realizing everything is within us. We go from thinking of limitation and lack to going to abundance, prosperity, and limitless gifts, limitless wonderfulness. We go from giving our power to external authorities to claiming sovereignty and liberation. We stop seeing ourselves as slaves and victims. We are liberating ourselves from this paradigm. We go from isolation and aloneness to unity. We go from fighting to peace and harmony. We go from ignorance to great wisdom, infinite wisdom. We go from 2-strand DNA to 12, 24, 144 strands of DNA, infinity of what we can activate and awaken and recode within us. We go from density and shadow to light. I could go on for a long time, but I have to stop here, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Lori. And Billy Carson, I consider him a superhero in this movement. He is out there on the front lines giving us the information that we need to know about what's coming down in his newsletter, Forbidden Knowledge. If you guys don't know about that, check that out. He has a daily newsletter that shares what's going on with the unraveling of the corruption and the exposing of everything that's going on. And he's very much a researcher of Egyptian mysteries and Hermetics. He's written a book on the Emerald Tablets, and he's out there in the world continuing to research all over the world. He never stops. He's amazing. So, Billy, can you give us your perspective on it?
Thank you for that brilliant intro. I appreciate it. I mean, a lot of you probably know me. I've been a world traveler for the last few years. I've been traveling for over 20 years, but very heavily in the last 2. But my first experience in coming to the point that I'm at now happened in 1978. In 1978, living down in Miami, Florida, we went to what we call a wash house down there in the South. And a wash house is when you don't have a washer and dryer in your house, you literally take your clothes to, this place where you wash them and dry them, and there's no air conditioning. It's open, like an open-aired, concrete structure. And it's extremely hot. So in the middle of summer, you're talking about the heat bouncing off the pavement. You're probably looking at 105 degrees with like 80% humidity. Very hot day. And I would be out there, helping my parents with the laundry. And one day I said to myself, I gotta escape this heat. So I literally went out in the back, I sat on the curb, and without knowing the word meditation, without reading any meditation books, only had 4 channels on TV, no cable TV, no Cartoon Network with meditating Japanese cartoons and all this, stuff like the kids have now. I just sat down and said, I'm gonna take my mind to Alaska. I'm gonna take my mind, and that's what I did. So I closed my eyes, and I just started envisioning that I was taking myself to Alaska. And I really, truly felt like I was in Alaska, to the point where when I came back out of this quasi-meditation that I stumbled into, my skin was cold to the touch. And that's when I knew something extra existed. There was something more than what I was seeing in what we call this reality. As a kid, I already knew that. By the time, in 1978, I was already researching aerospace because of an experience that I had in 1977 when I actually saw what I thought was a UFO come over my house in my backyard. Living close to the Opelika airport. I knew what an airplane was with a fuselage, a tail fin, a cockpit, and I would watch them clear the horizon, and I would count how long it would take because, like I said, back then, we didn't have much to do. And my mom wouldn't let me go too far. I had a parameter, the left gate and the right gate. If I went past that, I got in trouble because the neighborhood was pretty hardcore. People shooting and killing, every single day. The crossing guards would mug us on the way to school, the crossing guards. Yeah, so, between those 2 things, I just realized that there was really, really something else going on. And it took me into a whole nother realm of thought and the way that I saw the world and the way that I envisioned things. I spent all of my younger years trying to figure out what is beyond the veil. And I started analyzing just the basic things that I had access to, which were Encyclopedia Britannicas, Bibles, and different other spiritual and religious texts that were just currently available to me that my parents or my aunt and so forth had laying around. And I always saw that there was aspects of these texts and these scriptures that really did represent a higher level of thought. And I knew this from an early age. As I fast forward down to the future, getting into really researching and understanding more about biology and physics and quantum physics, and then starting to realize the word you hear everybody on this panel say, light body, light, light, light. I started digging deep into what is matter, what is an atom, what is a particle, what is a muon, what is a qubit, what are all these things? These things are all frequencies. Everything exists in the 3rd dimension as a wave of electromagnetic light. It's a waveform. Everything is light. There's nothing in the 3rd dimension that is not light. It's just that consciousness and frequency has slowed the vibration down of an electromagnetic wave to collapse it into what we consider to be solid matter. In true reality, there is nothing solid here at all. The way that I now come to understand that this works is your brain is encased in complete darkness, and it knows nothing. And what happens to your brain? It has friends, hearing, smelling, touch, feeling, all your senses. So it says to its friends, go out there and gather me some information so I can figure out what's going on outside. So your friends go out, they gather data, bits of information, but they themselves can't decipher it. They have no idea what they've collected, but they bring it back to the brain encased in complete darkness. The brain sorts it all out and projects a hologram, and then you navigate through this matrix, this third dimensional reality, based off of a projected hologram from your own consciousness. And so when I started to begin to think about that, I started to analyze, wow, well, what is the brain doing? The brain is now, as I got deeper into it, is downloading frequencies and uploading frequencies on a consistent basis, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Every single thought you think, including your thoughts you're thinking right now, whatever they may be, creates an electromagnetic wave that comes out through your skull. This is real peer-reviewed science, because I could put a cap on your head, and if you come to my presentation after this, you'll see in the science lab that the computer will tell you what you're thinking. And so every thought wave that you have coming out of your skull is a wave of light. We are already transmitting light waves into the universe, and those white light waves travel on into eternity. Just like the TV shows of I Love Lucy all the way back in the 1930s, 1940s are still being broadcast through space-time right now. Some alien race in 100 million years is going to get I Love Lucy, right? Every thought you think, the Akashic Records, real. Book of Life, real. Why? Because your thoughts are real. And your thoughts have generated an imprint, a digital imprint of electromagnetic activity that can be collapsed into digital waves, into a digital format, if you have the right technology. Is stored in space-time. So everything that you ever thought and thunk is in space-time, and a lot of what you get are downloads. So if you're matching the frequency of information that's already existing in space-time, you could get this idea that pops into your head. A lot of the times those ideas are things that already existed, thought waves that already existed in space-time that you downloaded into your body, and you had the ability to discern them and digest them and then bring them forward as, you know, something you can bring to fruition, whether it's an idea of how to create something or whatever. And so through this method, then I started understanding about how to manifest things into reality, and that human beings are manifestors. We are master manifestors. It's as above, so below. Just as the Creator is consistently manifesting, so are we. Because why? Because the Creator is inside of us. Everything that created this entire universe is inside of your body. So I started understanding that, you know, how do you get a cell phone? Well, a cell phone is first a thought in somebody's mind that generates a light wave that goes out into space-time and quantum entangles with the information. And then it gets sent from a consciousness platform into a two-dimensional platform where we put it into a CAD design, right? Computer-assisted design, or we draw it and sketch it out into a two-dimensional format. Now it goes to a 2D platform. And from a 2D platform, it gets sent to an engineer, which then converts it into a third-dimensional object that we can manipulate and move through space-time in the third dimension, XYZ axis, right? So we're manifestors as well. So I started seeing all these correlations between light and consciousness, and the fact that protons and electrons are conscious because they can change from being waves to particles. And then you extrapolate that means planets are conscious. That means rocks are conscious. It means blades of grass are conscious. Everything is conscious. And when you understand that, then you're going to treat everything differently. Because why? Because the ultimate ascension, the ultimate way to become an ascended master is to understand that everything is you. How can I treat you bad? Because I'm actually treating myself bad, because we're all one. Separation is an illusion. And so when you begin to understand this, you get now into unconditional love. And when you get into unconditional love, that's where you begin to unlock the keys of the universe.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Wow.
I can keep going for hours, but, you know.
Thank you. And so we're going to cycle back to Meg. We're going to go deeper into the personal experience. You can see there's a lot here. Aren't they amazing? Isn't this great information? So we're going to go even a level deeper into the personal experience, because that's why we're here. We want to find out what's going on for us and what is our path. I want to know more about deep core wounding and how that affects us, ascension flu symptoms, what it means by raising our frequency, DNA activation, what it means between how to get to fifth dimension and what's experienced. So I'm going to ask specific questions to each panelist, which is their area of expertise. And Meg, you've been working with this process for a long time. You also work with a lot of people that are in the ascension process. So you have a clear understanding of the process that continues. Can you share about the beginning of the ascension process and then what happens in the whole journey?
Sure, yes. So I started working with clients in 1998, so it's been over 20 years. And in a way, that's been like my university to sit in sacred space with others and hear from their higher self and their ascended masters and angels. And it's just been very illuminating. And what I've kind of to break it down into simple terms, I've seen basically 3 stages of the personal ascension. First, as we've all been talking about, is the spiritual awakening. However that is for you. For some of us, it was very fast and spontaneous, and then for others, it was a gradual awakening over years. And either or works great. Doesn't matter. You know, your blueprint, your soul blueprint, has designed how it is for you. So follow how that is working for you. You begin to see life as the observer. So this is where we've been talking about the presence, the awareness. You start to kind of be able to have a perspective now. It's a new perspective of yourself while you're in action through the day. And that gives you a lot of data. It's being able to witness your thoughts and your emotions, your behavior, your actions, and your fears and your patterns. This is all data that you're going to work on to improve and transform yourself. You also begin to awaken to this ego personality that's operating in the background. It's trying to control the life. It's very resistant to the spiritual awakening. So you might feel that kind of push-pull battle going on between we would call like our higher will or divine will and our lower self, or the lower will, the ego will. And kind of going hand in hand with the ego personality is this victim programming, victim mentality, always wanting to kind of blame everyone outside of themselves instead of really starting to be more accountable, self-responsible, and realizing, you know, as the other speakers have been mentioning, that we really are projecting our reality. So once you begin to get that concept, oh, okay, wait a minute, I'm the one responsible for projecting this reality. How can I go and change it? How can I improve it? How can I switch it up? So once you own your power to transform your reality, then you never stop. You just dive right in. You also, in the awakening stage, you begin to become aware of energy, how you're ingesting energy, what you're eating, are you meditating, these kinds of things. Are you getting into nature? We begin to start to take care of our vessel, because this is, of course, is the light body that we're activating for divine embodiment. So that's the awakening stage. These stages can kind of coexist and overlap a bit. Then we begin the transmutation stage. So as you begin to bring in more crystalline light into your body, into your field, and also begin to build that presence within you, your divine soul presence. This is kind of like, I call it like oil on water. It begins to kind of push up the lower, denser energies for transmutation. So this is where we start going into the detox process. We begin to get healing work because we have actually recognized, you know, I think I have some inner child healing to do. I might have some deep core wounding. Could be even dating back even beyond my parents. Could be generational wounding or patterning that's operating in me. It's like unconscious in the background, and it's controlling my life and making me miserable. So you begin to do kind of the peeling layers of the onion. You begin to get into what is unconscious running in me that I need to bring into awareness, bring into light, so I can start to transmute it. So this is some of these other areas you begin to realize you are living in a polarized field, and then the divine presence can't really merge with us if we're in this push-pull opposition of polarity within us. So we start to look for what are some of my polarities running. One of the most common ones, because of the ego personality, is greater than, less than, or superior, insecurity. These polarities need to be balanced and neutralized, us versus them. This kind of opposition thinking and reacting is a polarity that needs to be neutralized. You also start to clean up your energetic habits. You start respecting healthy boundaries, your own and others. You stop taking energy from others or letting them get in and take energy from you. All of this enmeshing and overlapping and just sloppy with our energy, we clean our act up. We begin to become real crisp and clear with our boundaries and respecting each other's. This is a game changer right there in your relationships. So no longer are you doing the codependency anymore. You begin to have a beautiful, balanced exchange of energy with your friends and loved ones and families.
And summing it up?
And finally, as these all start to develop and expand, you're going into the embodiment stage. And this is then where you've cleared and cleaned your vessel. You're at a really high crystalline light frequency where the divine presence can merge in. You start to become multidimensional, left, right brain working simultaneously. You begin to see through the eyes of the soul, speak through the voice of the soul. Everything begins to take over the life. You live the soul purpose, the soul mission. And what a way to live. So that's a very quick summary.
Thank you. And this process that Meg defines is in Ascension Tips. You have a postcard on your seat or in the back or the front here, and you can download this free download that shares that whole process and goes much more into depth.
Thank you.
And Susan, so you've researched this forever and peered into the lives of saints of the Ascension process. What can you tell us by that research of what really goes on in this transfiguration process on a deep level?
Well, if you're going to really attain ascension, that's very extreme. Because an ascended master, if you become an ascended master, you can appear anywhere at any time in any form. How about that? Appear at any time in any form, anywhere. You could appear as a dog, you could appear as an angel, you could appear in any form to anyone. And that's what an ascension master is. An ascended master also is someone that is helping humanity. In fact, some of you are ascended masters, and you were born for the purpose of assisting humanity to rise into this new level that we're going into, this new frequency that this earth is being transformed into. Now, if you're working on experiencing ascension, what you're doing is you are becoming more subtle. Your physical form, your mental form, every part of you, all of your kosha, all of your different sheaths are becoming more and more refined. That means your breath itself is becoming more refined. That means if you're around someone who is breathing in a gross way, you can't be around that person, because you're becoming more sensitive to all the energies around you. So breath changes. When you practice a lot of meditation, suddenly your breath is very subtle, very quiet. It's like you're not breathing at all. In fact, in the deep meditative process, there are times when breath is suspended, neither breathing nor not breathing. There is breath, but you don't notice that you're breathing. It's so quiet. And also, you may find that you become ultra sensitive to people around you, for example. You may feel that people are like energy vampires, many people in your atmosphere, and you're an energy sponge. You are absorbing the energy of others as a sponge absorbs water. In fact, you feel like you're out of control. And as you go through your day, every person that you meet is draining more and more and more of your energy. So you need to learn how to close off your energy field to all but the divine presence, because you can't stand to be in this gross environment any longer. So you could use an affirmation like this, and I recommend it. It's actually published in all of my 18 books. I've got this affirmation in every book because it is my go-to affirmation for all energy sponges in this universe. It goes like this: I am in control. I am the only authority in my life. I am divinely protected by the light of my being. I close off my aura and body of light to the lower astral levels of mind, and I open to the spiritual world. Thank you, God, and so it is. And if you use that affirmation many times a day, you'll find that you no longer will feel like you're an energy sponge. You'll begin to be able to deal with this kind of oversensitivity that those of us who are transforming into ascended beings are experiencing.
And summing it up?
Is that my time
Yeah.
up? Okay, good.
All right, thank you. And Maureen, you've worked with this process very deeply, and I'd like to know more about the new human that's being developed as you start to go into this process. I know that intuitive abilities start to come in line, the magic of synchronicity starts to show up, and you actually raise your frequency and all that process. Can you share more in depth about that?
Yes, I would like to start with where Susan left off with my favorite go-to mantra, which is I am asking for a day of heaven on earth for me and everyone I come in contact with, and or me and everyone I'm in contract with. Because maybe I'm not in contact with my webmaster today, but I'd like him to have a day of heaven on earth too. So that's where I start in terms of a daily mantra. The energy that I am working with is how to help you be your most evolved self. And as Susan pointed out, many of you may already be ascended masters who have come in and are pretending to be human and pretending to have limitation. You also may be parents of ascended masters and not know it, but I will tell you how you will know if you are parenting an ascended master. They are fearless. They do stuff that you tell them not to do. And they somehow manage to be okay. Like the little boy who poured gasoline all over the garage floor and lit it. And nothing bad came of it. And later when the mom came home and said, "Why is the garage clean?" "Oh, we cleaned it up for you, Mom." And you know perfectly well what really happened. So being a parent of ascended master is very challenging. And one of the ways to step up into that role is to ask for the mantle of the Divine Mother. And if you're a single parent, ask for the mantle of the Divine Mother and the Divine Father to overshadow you each and every day. What this does is overrides your natural inclination, your own shortcomings. Now, one of the things that Debbie asked me to address also was this idea of the ascension flu. And I remember reading it thinking, flu? Why do they call it the flu? And I realized that so many of the symptoms that people experience in this process, you know, the discomfort in the physical body, the aches and pains, the body stuff, are so similar to what we call the flu that it's a easy shortcut. But I would say that it's not a good idea to call it the ascension flu because it pairs it with something that is not so pleasant. So the number one thing to ask, and it kind of relates back to what some of you have been saying, is this idea that very often you are picking up somebody else's stuff. And if you are, maybe it isn't you. And so when you have these experiences, in addition to following the advice of Susan, you might also ask yourself, is this experience mine? Is this energy or this discomfort mine? And if the answer is no, then all the more reason to get into a practice, a daily practice of keeping yourself clear and tying your energy off so that you don't encounter these kinds of overloads that come to people who are attractors, like moth to the light, moth to the flame. And finally, I gave a handout to all of you, and you have it on your chair. And I would point you to some of the solutions. I'm not going to bother with all the extra details, but I'm going to point you to the solutions, which you can see on the second page. And one of the most important things, in addition to getting more sleep, is to use the tools that are available to you. And one tool that is quite amazing and quite powerful is a far infrared sauna. And everyone can get one. You can live in a tiny little space and get one that folds up like a book and fits into a closet, and get into it every day and work up that sweat, which will detoxify you. And oh, by the way, as long as you're sitting there for an hour, you may as well meditate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maureen. And Kaia Ra, I know one thing that's very prominent in the ascension process is that there are ascended masters that are here to assist us, and they're part of the ascendant process. And that's been part of your work, to have this personal, direct connection, especially with some of the female ascended masters, like Mary Magdalene, like Kuan Yin, like Isis. And can you tell us what that's like and how we can work with that and call that in a few minutes, but give us a viewpoint so we can be inspired to work with our own ascended master team through this process.
I would love to. Thanks for such a great question. Well, shall we practice it together right now? Yes. Okay, let's have some fun. Okay, so you want to make sure that your feet are on the ground and maybe palms up on your lap. You can take notes or not. You can let go and just enjoy this moment that we're having together. So there are thousands of ascended masters in the Sophia Dragon Tribe, but in the Sophia Code we focus on the first 8 key codes that are here to activate your divine genome. And what I do every morning is I call in a circle of divine feminine Christ light to fill my body with my own higher self sovereign divinity, which already exists within your body, but it's nice to visualize it, right? So let's practice visualizing, filling yourself up as a chalice of your own sovereign divine light. So you could visualize the north in front of you, you could visualize the north behind you. Wherever you're going to place that north, I invite you to welcome White Buffalo Woman, who is key code 7 of the Sophia Code, she of 1,000 white clouds and thunder beams. In the northeast, you could welcome Isis, key code 1 of the Sophia Code, she of 1,000 names. In the east, you could welcome and invoke Hathor, she of 1,000 voices, and her golden radiance to stand with you in your eastern gate of life. In the southeast, you could welcome Green Tara, key code 3 of the Sophia Code, she of 1,000 stars, to bless you in the southeastern gate of prosperity for your life. In the south, you could welcome key code 4, Mother Mary, she of 1,000 roses, as her open arms bless your body and heart and mind for your journey through that day. In the southwest, you can welcome Mary Magdalene, key code 5 of the Sophia Code, she of 1,000 angels. And you might even feel so inclined to witness that Jesus arrives with her as well. In the west, on that beautiful circle of light, you can welcome Kuan Yin and Maha Avatar Babaji. Finally, in the northwest, We welcome the Holy Seraphim of the Divine Mother, the Sophia dragons. And they arrive with these beautiful pearlescent white scales to bless your sovereignty. So let's take 3 deep breaths together in the center of that circle, in through your mouth and out through your, in through your nose and out through your mouth. Yeah, let's do an ah together. Let's just loosen it up a little bit. One more time. Oh, that feels better. And then I invite you to invoke the presence of your own higher self, your oversoul, your divinity, your presence, your soul, whatever you want to call it. It's you. From the very center of your own sacred heart. But I also invite you to open the doorway above your crown chakra, the 8th chakra, which is the gateway of life, so that you can feel a waterfall of your own sovereign divinity, your own light pouring through you right now, pouring down your crown, pouring down the back of your neck, down your shoulders, baptizing your heart, the presence of your own Holy Spirit, filling your solar plexus, rolling down through your sacral chakra, down into your root, nourishing your root, opening that beautiful connection that you have as a Christed being here on earth, and allowing that light to flow right down your legs. So this is how you can chart your course for the day, for your daily dose of ascension. Because here's the thing, these beautiful ascended masters, these divine feminine ascended masters, they're so powerful and they care so much about you. Their resonance is so pure that they're a constant mirror for you. They're a constant mother for you. They are constant mentors for you and how you are ready to parent yourself beyond codependency and into your sovereignty, which means that in actuality, there's nothing to defend against, because the invincible divine love, the invincible divine light that you are, literally decimates the darkness around you. This is what we're the most afraid of, is how atomic our own divine light is. When our divine light comes into proximity with these dark agendas, with lower level belief systems, with people who are suffering, the backlash is their own fear of how powerful you are. You're not actually afraid of what you think you're afraid of. You're afraid of how atomic your divine light is. Can you feel it within your circle? If so, say yes. Yeah, isn't that nice? How was that? Was that fun?
Great,
All
thank
right.
you.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And yes, the ascension process is not about just hearing and getting information. It is an experience, and that's what we're all talking about here. So thank you, Kaia Ra, for sharing the experience.
You're welcome.
And William, I'd like to know more about the light body and the Essenes and the Cathars and the history of what happened there. You've got such a wealth of information. Just go deeper into what you can share with us now.
Well, thank you. Yeah, in answer, I'd like to start with actually the second oldest human story, which is the Epic of Gilgamesh, which was read by the Essenes. And this was the foundation for their ascension practice. And the key thing about the Epic of Gilgamesh is that you have a human figure, Gilgamesh, Sumerian king, who's told by a goddess, Inanna, could be an ascended master, that he's 2/3 divine and 1/3 human. That sets up the fundamental archetypal dilemma of all humanity, in my view, at least for our conversation. We're 2/3 divine, 1/3 human. And she said this as a preamble to Gilgamesh trying to get through the Nibiru, which is the name that they gave for the gate of the gods. And she's giving him this advice saying, look, brother, if you want to get through that gate, don't try to do it 2/3 divine, 1/3 human. You're going to be like walking into a blender. You're going to get your feathers ruffled. And the two guys on either side of the gate, they're not called janitors or nothing, because they're going to try and clean up the rest of you that is splattered all over that gateway. And so she sets up this story that, hey, we've all got to polish the pearl. We've got to clean up our act, go from not 240 out of 360, where divinity and wholeness, holiness, perfection is symbolized by a circle, which is 360 degrees, and 2/3 of 360 is 240, right? So if we're all 240 out of 360, we're trying to move the needle. And if there's ever an increase in frequency, this is what it's describing, is how we raise our vibration gradually from 240 to 360, primarily by changing the things that we're doing, right? If you're wanting to live a life of someone who's at, say, 350, and you're still doing the things you're doing at 280, darling, it's not going to work. You've got to change what you're doing. This is the experiential aspect of it. And this is what the Essenes understood, right? And so in the Epic of Gilgamesh, Gilgamesh says that wide is the gate and narrow is the way that leads to life. Well, this is exactly what Jesus, the Essene master, taught as well in the Gospel of Matthew. He quoted directly from the Epic of Gilgamesh, which tells us, and other scholars, academics, that this is the source of the Essene teaching. And so they were on this quest for perfection. This is the word that appears throughout the Dead Sea Scrolls and in the Cathar teachings as well. In southern France, they call themselves the good Christians, or the perfecti. And the word perfect means to be whole, holy, complete, and compassionate. 360. In other words, that was their goal. Perfect doesn't mean, yeah, you're going to plunk down 50 grand at a Beverly Hills plastic surgeon and come out perfect. You know, our culture is so effed up when it comes to attaining perfection, and the cultural programming that says nobody's perfect. And what do you think you are, perfect? We've lost connection to the meaning of that word. Hence, we don't. You know, people. This is what I like to say. People have a career plan. You have a holiday plan. You have a family plan, a marital plan. What is your ascension plan? And how much time on a daily basis do you focus on that, right? You know what you're going to be doing in your retirement, some of us do, but what are you going to do in the next life? And we're preparing for that. And this is something the Essenes focused on. And one thing that the Essenes had that many other traditions don't have is directly described in the Dead Sea Scrolls, is that they were great initiators in ancient ascension practices, but they were also living with angelic beings who were teaching them. And this is the idea where the idea of purity comes into the equation, because the Essenes as a community were ruthless about any kind of negativity, anything that wasn't of the purest heart. And the reason why was because they were living with extraterrestrial beings, formerly called Anunnaki, who were beings of pure light and pure love. And they didn't want anything to come into their community that could contaminate that light, because it was not retroactive. If an Essene took a bottle of water and somehow was able to transmit negativity into it, this is what the Essenes teach in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Not only was that bottle of water now contaminated, but so was the source that water came from. Think about the level of personal responsibility ascension requires from their perspective. That's why they were so obsessed with this idea of purity and perfection. And this carried over them. The Essenes, of course, were wiped out by the children of darkness, incarnate in the Roman Empire at that time. As many as 1 million of them were exterminated to prevent this ascension teaching, these practices from gaining currency. Unfortunately, the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered in 1945. They were not released to the public due to academic jealousy and petty infighting until 1996. So we went for almost 50 years after their discovery without knowing what's really in the scrolls, and most people have no idea even to this day. But the Essenes reincarnated as the Cathars in the 13th century, became the pure ones again, teaching this form of ascension, living in remote areas of southern France. My wife and I take people on tours of pilgrimages there every year and walk through the Cathar/Essene ascension teachings. And now the Essenes and Cathars are coming back, and it's pleased to be in your company once again, because we have set that intention to raise the frequency, raise the vibration of this planet, now with understanding of all the quantum principles that they were actually teaching, because they were being taught by ascended masters who themselves were quantum physicists. So that is kind of the basis of, or the core of the work that I'm doing, is following this progression that began with the Anunnaki and Gilgamesh all the way through the Essenes up to the present era. That's a period of 5,000 years of stories, of practices, of inspiration that we can draw from in our own ascension. And all of those texts make it emphatically clear that there was going to come a new human race on this planet, and everything that came before was all about this ascension of the race to this moment. And we are at that present moment right now with less than maybe a generation to decide whether we're going to complete our ascension through organic means, as the Essenes and the Cathars and the Anunnaki taught, or if we're going to complete it through AI, transhuman technology. That is the choice that is before us right now. And maybe there's a middle ground somewhere in the middle. I'm not so sure, but everything that we're seeing coming out of Silicon Valley today is mimicking or preparing to mimic the idea of ascension, the light body, and this idea that we can suddenly morph into a cartoon avatar and go live in some simulated reality in Facebook Horizon or Microsoft's. Yeah, this is a complete and utter, some people would say, bastardization of these original teachings. But I personally, I don't completely slam the door on AI and transhumanism, because this is what we're dealing with at this present moment. And I can't say it any better than Pope Francis, who said that, who are we to limit God's creativity? Maybe this is how we are to progress. And I have just the tiniest thought that might be correct. Okay?
Okay, summing
because
it
I
up.
know in my heart it's all about an organic ascension, but we do live in a technological age, and I'm here to help guide you through these two pillars that we're now in the middle of, the organic ascension and the transhuman ascension.
Wow, again. Thank you, William. Amazing. Such a wealth of information.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. And Lori, I know you specialize in DNA activation, and that's a really incredible part of the ascension process that makes a lot of sense to me, because as I understand, we're operating with two strands, and as we raise our frequency and activate those other strands, other abilities, consciousness, quantum consciousness comes into play. I've experienced some activations with you that have been really wonderful, and I'd like you to share with everyone what that key is about.
Awesome. Well, thanks. Yeah, I would love to. I want to just do a little mind buster here in terms of the reality that we live in. We've been taught that we have an ego. In fact, we do not have an ego, no more than we have a soul or spirit. Ego is in the reality we exist in, it's actually its own entity that just feeds off of human emotion. So when you start separating yourself from this concept that you have an ego, and that you really start to recognize yourself as an awareness of all that is, that's just part of our ascension process too, just waking up to this reality. Now, I'll come to the DNA, but I just want to say one other thing. If we all begin to start living from just a core foundational truth, that for the 100% positive upliftment for all, with zero debt incurred, a debt we could call a karmic result, a cause-effect that creates a karmic response or a debt of some form that has to be relived and replayed. So if we start living with the divine intention of 100% positivity for all concerned, with zero debt to anyone now or at any point in the future, from this moment on and every moment, start to realize how the old paradigm and all of its reality will start to dissolve if we all start living that way. Because that is part of ascension for the whole, right? Zero debt incurred by anyone. 100% positive upliftment for everyone. Okay, with that said, I want to say, with the DNA, the first two strands of DNA that we've been operating from are basically corrupted, right? They're basically blueprints that we've been misreading through generations. And they store up corrupted patterns, death, disease, suffering, of basically programs and unopened gifts. In other words, our ancestors, and that was really us in other parallel existences, right? Other previous lifetimes. We did not understand the divine. We did not live according and in alignment with the divinity that's within us. So those became impressed upon the first two strands of DNA as problems or dis-ease. And they're really basically areas where we were out of alignment. Now, part of ascension is to identify those and resolve them, right? And a major part of ascension, even as it's not just limited to the DNA, but is to, number one, start to identify every program, implant, explant, belief system, pattern, a conscious and unconscious, that is keeping us in any way, shape, or form entangled with or ensnarled in this old paradigm. And we have to then, secondly, after we identify it, we start to resolve it. We have to clear, heal, resolve it. And part of that is by going into those first two strands of DNA and resolving those and basically claiming the gifts, which are our evolution, our learning. Once it's resolved, it gets cleared off those first two strands. I hope this is making sense. After, and this is not a linear approach, by the way, it's totally non-linear, just it's an ongoing process. After that, we start activating those other 10 strands. And this is like what I call the third part of our ascension, is where we download and we activate that which is within us, dormant, and that which is within our awareness, dormant. We activate it and awaken it from within us. And these are the gifts of our future versions of ourselves that we're becoming. These are gifts of consciousness, of awareness, gifts of the divine, our superhuman abilities, all of our greatest gifts that we share with ourselves and one another for the evolution of humanity and the ascension and awakening process. That's step 3. Those gifts, by the way, are all coded in the other 10 strands of what science refers to as dormant DNA. We can call it uncoded or blueprints that are not yet read. And these gifts, these superhuman abilities, they're lying dormant in the DNA. They have the solutions to all our personal problems, and they certainly have the solutions to the world's problems too. And that's only the first 10 strands after the first 2. So when you start getting into that, you start unpacking all of your magnificence and your greatest virtues, the virtues that all of humanity has. Virtues like magnanimity, virtues like authenticity, virtues like self-love, virtues like acceptance, just on these virtues that we haven't even learned yet in the old paradigm where people are just learning to be nice. Don't throw sticks and stones, right? I mean, you move way beyond competition, by the way. You just move into like, how can this be so fabulous and fantastic for everyone? The 100% positive upliftment for all beings with zero debt incurred to anyone now or at any point in the future. So competition goes away, greed goes away. It's just together we make greatness, right? So this is third step, and this is all coded in the dormant DNA. And then finally, once the starts to get awakened, and again, not a linear process, it's like it becomes inquiry. It becomes wonder. What can I create now? What fabulousness, what fantastic, what phenomenal, amazing, just out of this world awesomeness can I create as a conscious being? How good could it possibly be? How wonderful can it possibly be? And when we start living from that place, that's real ascension. This is the new way of being, because everyone benefits and zero get harmed. Okay, one final piece about this is that when you start working with crystals, the crystalline, why are there so many crystals at the Expo? The crystals are record keepers. They're storing up information, just like a tree, just like your thumbprint. These records in the crystals have these gifts for us, and they help us to activate our dormant DNA, by the way. They're coded. It's like gifts, time capsules from future versions of us that stuck them inside of the earth. And when you learn how to connect with these crystals in the crystalline consciousness, you're able to activate your crystalline DNA. This is not withheld from anybody. This is available to everyone. And by the way, what is fracking? Does anyone know? It's upsetting the 5D grid. Old paradigm has a 5G grid. New paradigm has a 5D grid. And you connect in with these crystals, you activate and awaken the DNA within you. The codes are already there. It's a matter of just learning how to do it, and it's already within you too. I lead crystal journeys. I've learned this stuff from the crystals. And I just want to say that's part of your Christ consciousness. It is not related to religion. It is related to the crystalline consciousness. And what do crystals hold? Light codes. What is the light body? The light activation of the body and the crystalline rainbow colors of light that crystals hold. It's not excluded to the crystals. The sun has it. It's within us. It's in our DNA. It's available to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Wonderful. And Billy, all right.
Yes.
You can go many places with this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's just so many aspects. I mean, everybody here is just really phenomenal. This is a phenomenal panel you put together. Mm-hmm. I'm just really pleased to be a part of this. It's really good to be on a stage talking with people at this level. All of us, everyone that's here is, like we were talking, mission, an ascended master, on a mission to become an ascended master, on a mission of service to others, on a mission to become what I call a Jedi from the ancient order, D-J-E-D-I. The Return of the Jedi from the TV movie or the movies is, it's really a playoff of something really from ancient times. And what does that really entail? It really entails understanding, where we are and the place that we sit at right now in this moment. Every individual one of us, We are all great at some things, and some things in our lives we're not that great at. There's certain areas of my life that I'm phenomenal at. Like I'm a great manifester of different things in business and entrepreneurship and music, and anything that I touch in those areas just like turns to gold, right? But there's other areas of my life that I'm not so good in. And so what's happened sometimes in the process of this ascension that we're trying to go through, it's like sometimes we begin to focus on the things that we're only great at, and we let the other things become lackluster. And this is something I experienced personally myself. So if I'm telling you this, I'm telling you this is a real thing. And I think that part of the ascension process, along with what everybody else here has talked about today, is being vulnerable and being real and true to yourself, and getting on a piece of paper and writing down all the things that you're really phenomenal at, and then on the other side of that sheet of paper, all the things that you're not that good at, the areas of your life that you're struggling with, whether it be relationships, whether it be finances, whether it be with managing your children, whatever it is. And you have to be honest, truthful to yourself. I teach this in my manifestation classes. Like, if you're not truthful with yourself about this, you'll never correct the problem. And then you have to then begin to consciously focus on that area and create a goal plan on how to make changes in those areas, or they will never change. And so if you're excelling in one area and not excelling in another area, yes, you may be moving far advanced in one region of your life, but the other region is still suffering. And that is slowing down your ascension process. And if you want to accelerate your ascension process, I recommend that you focus on the areas that you're lacking in. You have to start paying attention to them, like I did. And once I started paying attention to them, I'm going, oh, wow, I've been using all this manifestation, all this light knowledge and language of light and meditations on these areas that I've mastered almost, you know what I mean? But what about these areas that I'm lacking in? And I'm all, water always finds its level, right? So we always try to find, a way to flow towards what's already going to happen, instead of trying to go out there and really go across the rocks in the stream and get that water down to areas where it's needed. And, so I really do believe that that's a very big part of the ascension process, understanding how to be real, true to yourself, understand where your weaknesses are. But then once you do that, create a real plan. If you don't know what to do about the situation, find gurus, find experts, find mentors, get books, do research, work on those aspects and areas of your life that you're lacking in, and then try to bring them up to par. Because otherwise, in my personal opinion, then you're holding back your true ascension capabilities. And I think once you start to tap into that, like I saw, once I started going into that realm of the areas that I was weak in, other things started coming to me of enlightenment that would allow me to help other people. And now those areas where I was so weak in are now becoming strength to other people. And now I'm planting seeds into people, and those trees are growing, and I can see, it's going to become very, very fruitful, not only for me, but for other people. So that was like a message coming from the universe saying, hey, if you go into this area and work on these things that you're lacking in, it's going to be a benefit to humanity, not just yourself. And I think that was very, very important.
Thank you, Billy. So we're winding up here, and I'd like to give the panel one more chance to give their top tip of what people can do personally or how they can embrace this year. And also, this is an amazing panel with such a wealth of information that this can be just the beginning for you for studying. And I'd like everyone to share also where they're going to be teaching at the rest of the conference here, or ways and things that they offer on the Ascension Path. So you'll have a little over 2 minutes to share that. So please be concise and share your last tip and where they can reach you and how they can continue to study with you. Meg.
So this year is really quite an accelerated year, especially with all the astrology that's happening. And we have gateways that open up throughout the year on eclipses and equinox and solstice. But we also have these esoteric gateways as well that are like the 8-8 Lions Gate or the 11-11 Gateway. These are very powerful cosmic gateways that open, they work like portals, and they open us to the higher dimensions, and they allow us to connect to our star family of light and to be able to get the support and the guidance that we need to continue following our own ascension process and plan, and then also to help with the planetary ascension. So we all are here to support Gaia and support how our beloved star is ascending as well, and all life on this planet. So this is where the more that you embody your divinity, you begin to get kind of an inner heart pulling you to what is the best area for you to work in and provide service. And so it's really, again, this heart of ours is the portal to the fifth dimension. The fifth dimension is a feeling field, so the more that we heal the core wounding in the heart, the more that we're able to embody our divinity in our heart, in the love vibration, the more that we're able to access the fifth dimensional field. I've been working with clients for over 20 years, helping them through their own personal process and opening up their own soul blueprint and purpose, and helping them activate more of their dormant soul galactic DNA. I do monthly global activations online. We have people coming in from thousands of people all around the world, and we come together and form a united group mind, and we influence our collective field. We don't need to be passive and just let that field be full of chaos and hate. We can also fill it with love and peace and harmony. And so we set our intentions and our visions every month, and it's really very empowering knowing that you can affect positive change in the world. I am going to be doing a free lecture tomorrow at 11 that will demonstrate my modality, quantum access. This is the technique that I have brought in from my timeline in the mystery schools in Egypt, in Septepi, Egypt, and be able to work very closely with Archangel Metatron and his sacred geometry to activate the Merkaba torus and the 0 point within the field. So I'll be walking through the steps to help people understand how to do that tomorrow at 11. And then tomorrow evening at 8, Debra and I and John Burgos, the host of the Beyond the Ordinary show, we're going to be doing a workshop that, again, is deep diving into the ascension process, kind of through the masculine and feminine perspective. And we'll be doing some activations in the workshop and post-conference workshop on Monday night at 8 o'clock as well. So we got some fun stuff coming up. You can reach me at my website, megbenedicte.com, or at my business website, newearthcentral.com. And I just would love to see you join us in our monthly global activations. The more of us that are really focused in creating our new earth here, our fifth dimensional and higher earth here, the faster it happens. So I'd love to see you join us. Thank you.
And the outline for those workshops, again, is Ascension Tips. You have some postcards on your seat or up there or down there. If you aren't able to come, you can download this from the internet. And that's at ascensionnow.org. And again, we only have a couple minutes, so concise tip and all that you're up to, Susan.
Thank you, Debra.
Yeah.
Everything that I teach is based upon one principle, one thing, and that is ask, and it shall be given unto you. So asking is how you will receive whatever it is that you desire, including ascension and anything else you want to desire. And a matter of asking is not begging or pleading. It's a matter of calling upon divinity, calling upon whatever it is that you feel comfortable calling upon, whether that be Holy Spirit or Jesus or Babaji or Saint Germain or whatever divine being, whatever it is you believe in. Ask that divine being to help you. They're here to help you. That's their job. So make use of that. It's a precious, precious, precious gift to be able to ask and receive. So you can ask for your body to be transformed into a light body. You can ask in meditation, I recommend you can ask for your aura to be cleared and cleansed. You can ask for whatever it is you want, and it does manifest immediately just by asking. especially when you're in a meditative state. So tomorrow I'll be doing a lecture, free. Please come. Third Eye Meditations. I believe it's at 1 o'clock, something like that. And we'll be doing guided meditation. The entire presentation will just be very, very deep meditation. People always come up to me and say, oh, that meditation was unbelievable. I've never gone that deep in meditation before in my life. This happens to me all the time, people saying that. So come and feel what it really feels like to go into very deep meditation. And then also I'll be on the spiritual healing panel sometime tomorrow. I believe it's sometime in the afternoon. My websites are drsusan.org. That's drsusan.org. And also divinetravels.com, D-I-V-I-N-E, travels, T-R-A-V-E-L-S. Be sure to put the plural on the divinetravels.com. Upcoming will be Sail with Spirit Cruise with Lisa Williams and Denise Lynn and many other famous intuitives. That'll be sailing to Alaska, August into September. Another cruise to Tahiti will be October with Mas Sajati. Next year, there'll be Chariots of the Gods cruise, which will be with Eric von Daniken and all of the major players in the UFO and ancient mysteries field, hopefully including William Henry and Billy Carson and many others. We have invited them. And also next year will be a Celebration of Life cruise in May going to Alaska, and a cruise with Denise Lynn in October going to the Greek Isles. So check out divinetravels.com. We also have tours to Peru and other sacred destinations.
Great. Yes, her cruises are amazing if you want to be with community in this vibration here. And again, 2 minutes concise, Maureen.
I am teaching tomorrow. It is a paid class on the connecting the dots in 5D, so how you can apply all this information. I am also teaching an Akashic Records class online right now. We've started the first class this week, and so if you want to jump in and catch up, it's still possible. Stop by our booth or check our website and sign up, and we'll give you all the details. You can also learn the Merkaba meditation on my website by downloading the Merkaba training, which is an original class of the original 17 breath Merkaba, as well as the 5D Merkaba. And I also want to tell you that I have a lot of tools to help you clear your emotional wounds, so you no longer have to do the long process of processing through. And we have essential oils and a lot of other tools that will help you almost instantaneously clear your emotional wounds. So I encourage you to stop by and check out the tools we have. I'm also taking a group to Egypt, along with a lot of other people here. I know William goes as well. I'm doing this with Sacred Land Travels, and this trip that's coming up is March 19th to April 1st. We do still have a few spots left if you'd like to join us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My website, MaureenSt.com, has everything you want, everything that we have talked about, and I have links to all the other places. Thank you.
And Kaia Ra, a brief tip and all that you're up to.
Okay, I think if you're really interested in the ascension process, then mentoring with the Ascended Masters is essential in 2020. Because if you want to embody the fullness of your highest potential, you've got to work with the beings that actually did it. You got to surround yourself, whoever you surround yourself is who you become. So surround yourself with the Ascended Masters if you're interested in ascension. And so what we've done in a very short amount of time over the past 4 years is we've created an international movement around the Sophia Code Mystery School, and it's an authentic modern mystery school. We currently have 3 successive programs. The first is called the Stargate 1 curriculum, and in the Stargate 1 curriculum, you are taken on an extensive mystery school journey in how to embody your higher self and how to directly mentor with the Ascended Masters, but most importantly, how to stay in a space of communion with your direct relationship to the source in all circumstances through your own unconditional self-love. And that's a whole dragon ride that we get into. There's over 30 classes in that material. And then in Stargate 2, we talk about divine feminine Christ leadership, which is how to lead, spiritually lead movements, spiritually lead your clients and communities into Christ consciousness, into this crystalline consciousness. But you've got to embody it first. And then you've got to accept yourself wherever you're at in your embodiment and take that next step to lead from that vulnerable space that it's not about being perfect, it's about being perfectly you. So that's what the Stargate 2 curriculum walks you through. When you walk through those temple gates in the mystery school, you eventually embody a very deep desire to activate the sovereign divinity of others. And that's what we created last year, which is the Sophia Circle certification program, where you can become a certified leader and lead Sophia Circle journeys through the Codex and bring the Ascended Masters to your friends, to your community, to your loved ones, to your clients. And it's a really, really powerful program, not just in how to mentor with the Ascended Masters, lead side by side with the Ascended Masters, but also how to be the underbelly of leadership. Like, everybody glamorizes leadership, but we're also terrified of it because there's a very real underbelly to it. And in 2020, we can't allow that underbelly to scare us out of our divine purpose anymore. We're all here to lead together side by side. And so that's what the Sophia Code Mystery School offers. And we're going to be doing the 2020 Vision Mentor Journey from March to June this year. We're going to have an amazing leadership conference in Sedona, Arizona in June. We're going to be in New York and we're going to, in the fall. And we're also going to be doing our next round of Sophia Circle Leadership Certification this fall. And we'll also be headed to France next spring because the Sophia Code is being translated into French, which I'm very excited about. So thank you so much for the opportunity to share from my heart to yours about our daily prayer for activating the sovereign divinity of humanity.
Thank you, Kaia Ra. And William.
Okay, so tomorrow I will be doing AI and the new humanity, AI for artificial intelligence, AI for ascension intelligence, and very clearly presenting to you the two pillars, how they might intermingle and how we walk through this gateway that we are presently, some of us are approaching it, some of us are in it, some are on the other side. So we'll be looking at a real detailed look at that. This is based on 15 articles on my website, williamhenry.net, about 50,000 words about AI and ascension. So it's not something I'm just kind of new to. It's very much what my work is about and has been for a long time. And very, very happy to share all that with you to try to move this forward. Then on Monday, I'll be doing the art and science of living ascension, because it's something we live now. Early on, I learned, and this is my tip, of the power of sacred art. We want to invoke the Ascended Masters. We want to know what it feels like to be at that ascended level. And I kept hearing this message from Padmasambhava, from Thoth, from Jesus, from other masters. The image will show you the way. There is no text about how to learn to ascend. The image will show you the way, because the image can quantumly entangle you with the masters and they can transmit codes to you through the image. I explain all of this in great scientific detail that's very comprehensible, understandable, and works. Okay, so it's really provocative stuff. The art and science of ascension combined. It's thoroughly just amazing to me to present it every single time. And fortunately, I've developed a worldwide reputation for this work, and I get images from Christie's and from Sotheby's and private collectors saying, you really need to see this one because we can't let this go into our private collection. This is transmitting codes like you can't believe, and it's powerful, powerful tool. So one of the first things you can do is just put an image of an ascended master or Padmasambhava in his rainbow light body on your cell phone and look at it 342 times a day like the average person does, and every time, right? So that's a tip. So where we're going from here, a major conference in Nashville, where I live, Music City, home of Athena's Parthenon, a conference called Awakening the Pearl, the Light Body Teachings of Christ and the Marys. Most of my work now is almost entirely focused on the Divine Feminine. I'm Mary Magdalene, the Mary, who is the first Christian to ascend. My wife Claire and I lead tours to Egypt. Our March tour sold out, but we have a November tour. We'd love for you to join us in France in September, where we follow the codes of the Cathars and the Marys to Lourdes. People have incredible healing experiences with Mary in her light body form, which is absolutely extraordinary. Israel is on the itinerary for November 2020. So these are some of the upcoming things, and would love to invite you to visit my website, which is williamhenry.net. Again, it's got more articles, and you probably want to read about all this stuff, as well as some of the images that I'm talking about. And also you can keep up to date on events and so forth. So thank you, Deborah. Once
Thank
again,
you.
thank you everybody on the panel, and God bless you all. Keep up the great work.
And Lori.
Well, first, I'd love to offer everyone a gifted DNA activation so you can experience it for yourself and really start to play with it and work with it. So you can go to lauriespagna.com. I'll spell that, but lauriespagna.com/free gifts/DNA. It's LORISPAGNA. If you're an animal lover and you'd really love to work with your animals and learn telepathy and activate more of your intuitive gifts and help your animals as well and do more energy healing, there's some fabulous, really content-rich gifts at lauriespagna.com/free gifts/animals. And finally, if you resonate with the word star seed and you understand, and you want to know the difference between invasion of the body snatchers versus really embodying who you are as a star being, you can go to lauriespagna.com/free gifts/starseed. You can also learn all about the indigo tribes there. I'd love to invite people to today at 6 p.m. in Newport B. I'll be doing transformational healing, activations, and channeling for ascension and for leveling up your awareness to 5D and beyond. So we'll get guidance and channeled information. We'll do activations and clearings for whoever participates in the group. And then tomorrow I'm doing a free lecture to go into the dormant DNA and really talk about it, what it is, how to activate it, your star code markings, what that means, and your sacred key codes that are dormant in your DNA. So you'll learn all about that. That's tomorrow. I'm doing a free lecture at 2 p.m. in Century C. And then on Monday, I'm doing a post-conference where we will be actively clearing the dormant DNA of the first 2 strands of the corrupted programming and actively awakening dormant DNA in the following 10 and beyond strands. That's a post-event workshop Monday at 11 a.m. in Century C. Finally, I just want to reference, if you want to get more of me outside of this, be with me and work with me more outside of this weekend's Expo, you can certainly find out all about my events at my website, lauriespagna.com. I would love to have you join us for our crystal retreat in Arkansas. It is fabulous. If you're looking for your tribe, your family, if you resonate as a star being, if you resonate as the indigo family, a member of the indigo family races, if you recognize yourself as a spiritually awakening being who wants tribe and community, come with us on the crystal retreat and learn how to interact in a conscious way with the crystals, the crystalline kingdom, activate all of your superhuman abilities. That's on my website under lauriespagna.com. And then if you're really wanting some of the really intimate attention to intimately connect on your intimate, deeply intimate, and profoundly personal spiritual journey, up-leveling your consciousness and your awareness, you can definitely learn more about how to do that with me at the Lightworker Boot Camp. And that's also at lauriespagna.com on the live events tab. Okay, thank you so much, and thank you, Deborah, for organizing. Thank you to all the panelists as well. It's been a pleasure.
Great. And Billy, in a few minutes or less, all that you're up to.
Yes, I'll start off with what I'm up to, and then I'll end with my final word. But so right now I'm filming a box office movie named Chronicles of the Anunnaki. And as a matter of fact, I'm also doing a Gaia Sphere 6-hour workshop at Gaia on April 25th. That's going to be in Boulder, Colorado. Anybody wants to come there, it'll be a 6-hour day. It's going to be a long day, but we're going to do a lot. And it's going to be a docu-series live on stage. So it's going to be very amazing. I'm starting off in the Pleiades, and I'm talking about galactic wars. I'm talking about space refugees. I'm talking about inhabiting other star systems. I'm talking about a lot of things, and it's all based off of various ancient texts, over 100 different texts, scriptures, cylinder scrolls, cuneiform tablets, that have been discovered all around the world, and also some handed down oral histories as well. So it's all going to be based off of ancient information, and all the sources will be given, so it's going to be phenomenal. I'm also doing another movie called Quantum Walkers right now with my entertainment attorney, and it's starring me. So it'll be my first major role that I'm going to be in. I've been in a lot of shows already, of course. Right now I'm in on Discovery Channel in a show called American Mysteries, brand new series that just started out, American Mysteries. I'm also on the Travel Channel on UFOs, The Untold Truth, and another show on the Travel Channel, UFOs, The Lost Evidence. I'm on Dame-TV or DTV, my own show, Forbidden Knowledge with Billy Carson. You can get that on Dame-Studios app. And I'm launching Forbidden Knowledge TV in about 2.5 weeks, my own streaming network, which is going to be amazing. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm speaking in Los Angeles B 6 p.m. today about quantum light walking. And then I'm also going to be talking about, which involves the Merkaba, it's actually called Merkaba Quantum Light Walking. And then I'm going to be speaking on Monday in Los Angeles B again at 8 p.m. And it's going to be the post-conference, and I'm going to talk about stargates and portals. Not only stargates and portals on Earth, but stargates and portals on other planets in our solar system. And I'm going to be showing proof of life, or what I consider to be proof of life in our solar system, along with some of these portals and stargates. So it's going to be an amazing post-conference, things you've never seen before. And so my final note, my book still is a bestseller on Amazon for like the last 10 months, by the way. So thank you, everybody who's got the book. I really appreciate you guys. It's doing phenomenal. Now it's being translated into 3 more languages. But there's, in the very back of the book, the last words of thrice great Hermes. Wise words, although written by my decaying hand, remain imperishable through time, imbued with the medicine of immortality by the All-Master. Be unseen and undiscovered by all those who come and go, wandering the wastelands of life. Be hidden until an older heaven births human beings who are worthy of your wisdom. The human beings worthy of the wisdom are us right here. This is saying there's going to come a time, this information was going to be hidden, and there's going to come a time where it's going to be revealed to everyone, and we are in the time right now. So thank you very much for everybody for listening, participating, and following.
Thank you. Amazing. This is what turns me on in life. What can I say? I'd like to share a little bit more about the workshop that Meg and I are going to do. It got birthed last year because I've been doing this panel for 5 years, and I just love it. But as you can see, this is a whole deep dive. And so Meg and I are really going to do a deep dive with John Burgos tomorrow night at 8 p.m. on the whole process of ascension, and then in the post-conference workshop at 8 p.m., where we can really work together. You can get your questions answered and actually do some activations that she does and some of the other panelists does, which are really important for allowing your frequency to raise and feel this ascension process. So again, I'm Debra Giusti. Love you, and let's give some love to the panel. Weren't they amazing? Woo! Yeah. Thank you so much.
So is this you?
Yes.
Years ago.
Oh, sure.
This looks like it could be your older sister.
I got some in the back. Set up outside. Sell some.
Great.
Yeah.